Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Braintree Town Council meeting for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. Could everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you please remain standing and join me in a moment of silence for our men and women in uniform, please? Thank you very much. Please be seated. Could we please have the roll call, please?
Councillor Barrica will not be attending this evening. Councillor Flaherty will not be attending this evening. Councillor Hume?
Here.
Councillor Maglio?
Here.
Councillor Morin?
Here.
Councillor Quilty?
Here.
Councillor Reynolds?
Here.
Councillor Ringus?
Here.
Councillor Ryan?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda will be announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? Councillor Quilty?
I want to acknowledge that I and many of the other town councilors received hundreds of emails, possibly a form letter, from residents expressing their concerns about the current financial situation here in Braintree.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Morin?
I received a email from a constituent, Kevin Berner, who wanted me to let the council know that a bill that he has been working on with Senator Keenan regarding the victimization of individuals, particularly young individuals, through use of media that have been bullied in the past, passed the Senate and is heading to the House for to work out the differences between the House and the Senate versions to get the bill to the governor's desk. This has been really strong work from Senator Keaton, who learned of not only Mr. Berner's situation, but others within his district that suffered from abuse and exploitation. And Senator Keaton fielded concerns from constituents and proposed legislation and gathered support. And this legislation passed with unanimous support. I congratulate Senator Keenan and Mr. Berner for their efforts to push forward this legislation in a positive way, and I can look forward to continuing to work with him to resolve the issues that he's brought forward in a mutually satisfactory way that hopefully will serve the citizens of the town of Braintree very well. I thank him again for his efforts and for the efforts of Senator Keenan.
Thank you, Councilor Morin. Any other announcements? Councilor Maglio?
Thank you. On the heels of that, thank you, Councillor Morin. And because this is, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, I thought I would also highlight a quote from Mass Kids and Jetta Bernier. The best way for people to help prevent child sexual abuse is learning about it, talking about it, and taking specific actions to stop it from happening. Everyone can make a difference. I think that the legislature did a really good job in addressing this issue and looking at where some policies could be cleaned up. And I think that that's something that we could also do here in the town of Braintree. So I look forward to seeing that happen as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ringus?
I have two announcements, one from the Rotary Club, one from the town clerk's office. I'll start with the town clerk's office. Dog license registration for 2024 is now open. To register your dog, you may visit the town clerk's office in person Monday through Friday during regular business hours. Register by mail, or if you prefer, you can register online at braintreemass.gov under the town clerk department. From the Rotary Club of Braintree, There is a fun volunteer opportunity that is going to be occurring here at Braintree Town Hall, April 13th from 10 a.m. to noon. You can help pack toiletry kits for local families in need. Volunteers of all ages are welcome. Refreshments will be served. Students at the high school or in various clubs can bring their volunteer service hour forms to be signed. If you want any further information, you can email rotaryclubofbraintree@gmail.com. Again, that is April 13th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, helping local families in need, and it's a great opportunity.
Thank you, Councilor Ringus. Are there any other announcements? Okay, we have an announcement regarding the upcoming food and diaper drive for the Marge Crispin Food Pantry, and Ann Tolan is here to talk about that. Ann, come on up. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, and thank you to the councilors. I'm very happy to be here. This coming Saturday, the Norfolk County Central Labor Council and a number of the unions are going to have their annual food drive out here out front, and it's from 9 until 12. And on behalf of my staff and our volunteers, and I have Marta is here with me. She's the chairman of our board of directors. We just want to publicly thank all the unions for their support over the years. It's really been tremendous. This one will be a food and diaper drive, and it will be drive up, and it's from 9 until 12. And so many of the other unions, we have the iron workers, the Teamsters come. We get a lot of support from the plumbers union and the pipe fitters. I know I'm going to forget somebody, but and also United Way. And they just come from all over, and we're very, very blessed to have the support of the unions, and I just wanted to publicly thank them for their continued support. They've been doing it for a number of years now. And the food pantry, just as an update, it's been very, very busy, as you can imagine, this year with the pandemic and a lot of people losing their jobs and finances being what they are. So we are very, very blessed to have the support of the town of Braintree, so many town departments, businesses in Braintree, and all of the schools and the different organizations, churches. We get a lot of support, but I just wanted to publicly thank everybody. We did over 300 children for Christmas, and we did 178 families, I think it was, for Thanksgiving and for the Christmas drive, plus all the toys and gifts and everything. So it was quite a year, very busy year, but a lot of volunteers. And I just want to mention that people probably don't realize it, but there's so much support from the young people in town. They're putting in their community service hours, and when they couldn't come in to help, they were running little food drives in their neighborhood, and we were giving them their community service hours for collecting the food and delivering it to us. So there's been a lot of support, and it's really wonderful to see. It's great to see it. Thank you.
Anybody have
Thank
any
you for everybody's
questions
help.
or comments for Ann? Well, Ann, just like you said that you're blessed to have the unions help and everyone's involvement, we're blessed to have you do the wonderful job in MATA, the job that you ladies do, and we really appreciate everything you do. So I will be there on Saturday to help, and
I love to quote Marge Crispin, and she always said that an organization like ours is only as good as our supporters and our volunteers, and it's so, so true. We couldn't do it without everybody's help. I just kind of direct the traffic, that's all.
thank you, Ann, so much.
But thank you so much, and we'll be here Saturday, rain or shine.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll see you then.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda will be approval of the minutes from March 19th, 2024. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. President.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. The next item under old business, we need to continue several public hearings. The first one is 22012, Mayor Zoning Bylaw Text Amendment, Inclusionary Housing and Associated Revisions, or take up any action related thereto. Public hearing continued to April 30th, 2024 at 7:30 PM. Do we have a motion to continue the public hearing?
Do we have to open the hearing?
Okay, and then the other one is 23080, Mayor, CPC appropriation, request for appropriation, fire station, historic restoration, or take up any action related thereto. Public hearing continued to April 30th, 2024 at 7:30 PM. 24009, Roman Catholic Archbishop of Boston petition for zoning map amendments, 338 Elm Street, map 2071, Plot 5 and 0 Elm Street, AKA Hawthorne Road, map 2065/34, take up any action related thereto. Public hearing open April 2nd, 2024, be continued without testimony to April 30th, 2024. So do we need to open them or we need to just continue them, right?
We're opening all three and then continuing them.
Okay, so we need a motion to open all three meetings.
Mr. President, can I have a motion to open public hearing for Order 22012, Order 23080, and Order 24009?
We have a motion and second to open the public hearings. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. And now do we have a motion to continue all three till April 30th, 2024 at 7:30 PM?
Mr. President, I'd move to continue the public hearings for 22012, 23080, and 24009 to April 30th, 2024 at 7:30 PM.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. So now we have old business. 23086, Mayor, transfer funds from the salary reserves or take up any action related thereto. We have a public hearing. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
You have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we open the public hearing. I'm going to first refer to Councilor Moran, the Vice Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, for a recommendation on Order 23086.
Thank you. Mr. President, the Committee on Ways and Means met earlier this evening, and the committee voted unanimously for a favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 23086.
Thank you. I see the mayor is here. Is there anyone from the mayor's office or the mayor would like to speak on this matter? Good evening.
Apologies for my voice. Still getting over a little scratch. Mr. Chair, councilors, the motions that are before you that we presented at Ways and Means would essentially fund the two remaining unit contracts that have yet to be ratified, so that after the result of this, all town contracts would be under contract through June 30, 2025. The amounts that are listed here would fund the calculated estimated amounts for fiscal 23 and fiscal 24. They are, in the case of ASME, we're talking about 83 town employees, 85, and school custodians, 43 employees of the town. So with your review and approval of this, we will then fund those collective bargaining agreements effective back to July 1st, 2022. And these, as the motion indicates, were funded, the fiscal 23 portion was funded in the fiscal 23 budget, as well as the fiscal 24 portions were funded in this year's budget. The reason why the motions are referencing back to those two separate appropriations is because we are taking up this matter now after it's just recently been ratified by these two units. Finally, as I noted in the conversation or the presentation to Ways and Means, the motion is structured to allow us to provide up to the amounts indicated in reserve. This we'll be determining how much funding is required in each line item for the departments based on what's estimated as available funding. It's possible that we will require all the estimated funding that's here. Any funding that we didn't need, not anticipated to be a material amount, would revert to the general fund at the conclusion of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the council? Council Moore?
President, I would just say that this collective bargaining agreement covers approximately 85, 86 employees throughout, that work on assignments throughout the town. The cost of living increases of 1.5% and 2% in the years covered by the agreement are modest and fair, and I compliment the mayor's office and the union in coming to an agreement that is in the best interest of the town.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the council? Yeah, I think this is appropriate. We're giving these folks the same that the other unions settled for. Those contracts were negotiated in good faith through collective bargaining, and we're going to fund these, as Mr. Council Moran said, very modest increases. And when you're talking 1.5% and 2%, and the cost of living is going up much, much, much more than that, it's a very fair increase. So I fully support this. Are there any other comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, I'm going to open it up to the general public. Is there anyone from the general public that would like to speak regarding 23086? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. President.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Do I have a motion for Order 23086?
Thank you, Mr. President. For motion number one is to ask me FY 2023 funding, that the town vote to amend the wage and salary classification schedules as most recently amended by transferring the sum of $58,575.40 for the purpose of funding a wage increase and other items as detailed in the memorandum of agreement for the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees effective July 1, 2022, and for this purpose, a sum of up to $58,575.40 be transferred from the FY23 Human Resource Salary Reserve, and further, that the Director of Municipal Finance is authorized to allocate said sums to and among the various accounts affected thereby in such amounts as are proper and required. In anticipation of approval of these agreements, funds are appropriated to a salary reserve account in the previously approved fiscal year 2023 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Could we have the next motion, please?
As to ask the FY 2024 funding, that the town vote to amend the wage and salary classification schedules as most recently amended by transferring the sum of up to $137,847.45 for the purpose of funding a wage increase and other items as detailed in the memorandum of agreement for the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees effective July 1, 2022. And for this purpose, the sum of up to $137,847.45 be transferred from the FY24 Benefits Reserve. And further, that the Director of Municipal Finance is authorized to allocate said sums to and among the various accounts affected thereby in such amounts as are proper and required. In anticipation of approval of these agreements, funds are appropriated to a salary reserve account in the previously approved fiscal year 2024 budget.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. The next motion, please.
As the school custodians FY 2023 funding, that the town vote to amend the wage and salary classification schedules as most recently amended by transferring the sum of up to $35,714.02 for the purpose of funding a wage increase and other items as detailed in the memorandum of agreement for the school custodians effective July 1, 2022, and for this purpose, the sum of up to $15,204.80 be transferred from the FY23 Human Resource Salary Reserve, and the sum of up to $20,509.22 be transferred from the FY24 Salary Reserve, and further, that the Director of Municipal Finance is authorized to allocate said sums to and among the various accounts affected thereby in such amounts as are proper and required. In anticipation of approval of these agreements, funds are appropriated to a salary reserve account in the previously approved fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024 budget.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. And the last motion, please.
As to school custodian FY 2024 funding, that the town vote to amend the wage and salary classification schedules as most recently amended by transferring the sum of up to $84,046.98 for the purpose of funding a wage increase and other items as detailed in the memorandum of agreement for the school custodians effective July 1, 2022. And for this purpose, the sum of up to $84,046.98 be transferred from the FY24 salary reserve. And further, the Director of Municipal Finance is authorized to allocate said sums to and among the various accounts affected thereby in such amounts as are proper and required. In anticipation of approval of these agreements, funds are appropriated to a salary reserve account in the previously approved fiscal year 2024 budget.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item on the agenda is 24013, Mayor CPC Appropriation, Watson Park, Delory Field Rehabilitation. Additional funds or take up any action related thereto. This requires a public hearing. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second, sorry.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. So the public hearing is now open, and I'm going to refer to Councilor Peter Moran for the recommendation from Ways and Means.
Mr. President, the Committee on Ways and Means met last week, and the committee voted unanimously for a favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 2413.
Thank you. And do we have anyone from the mayor's staff that would like to speak on this matter? Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, town council. I'm sorry, a little tired today, I apologize. Here on behalf of the mayor and representing the Community Preservation Committee. They did hear this matter in January and made a favorable recommendation. This is additional funds allocated to the Delory project. Chris and Jim are here to get into the details, but this project has been put out to bid, is a great project for East Braintree, and a lot of work has gone into it, and the committee felt at this point, we're so far down the line, let's put in those additional funds so that we can get this field redone. I think the last time from the meetings I've been at, hasn't been done in about 40 years. So I'm here for CPC questions, and I turn it over to Chris for the details about the specifics of the request.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you to the members. As Melissa said, we went before CPC in January after the bidding process last year. After we saw you last year for the original funding, we did, our engineers did identify some additional areas of improvements in the areas of the irrigation, in the drainage, and they also had to seek some approvals through Conservation, through the Conservation Commission, which we were very thankful that the commission, did give us those approvals. The project then went out to bid, and due to construction costs, it did, with the additional irrigation and drainage work that our engineers identified, it did come in, as I won't say substantially, but a fair deal over the original allocation. But the lowest bid was from a responsible contractor who has done work for the town in the past, has done similar field work throughout the greater Boston area. So one that we knew was a responsible bid. So the hope would be to, if respectfully, if approval is given, that the hope would be that East Braintree gets its season in baseball-wise, and then after their annual end-of-the-year tournament in July, that we come in right behind that, ready to go with work to be done starting late July, early August.
And finishing in?
And finishing it, yeah, and that which will give the sod time to take over the fall and the winter. Other than what I mentioned with the irrigation and the drainage improvements that were identified, which will help the field drain better after rain events to get the kids back on the field quicker after heavy rains, similar to what we've seen this past week and what we're expecting over the next couple of days. Sometimes when that happens, you can lose a baseball field for a lot longer than the storm event itself. But the improvements the engineers identified will certainly cut down that amount of time when the field can be, when any field in town, any baseball field anywhere, unless it's at Fenway Park and they have 60-person grounds crew to come out and take care of it. Any field needs a little time to dry, but this will certainly help. The engineers also identified, I'm sure John Thompson mentioned last week, I want to thank him for all his work on this and for being at the meeting last week, which I unfortunately was unable to attend, but he and I spoke multiple times, and him and his terrific team over in engineering identified even further reductions in the parking lot, which I'm sure he talked about last week, without reduction in the number of spaces, which which we're very pleased about. Obviously, anytime we can incorporate even the tiniest bit more green space than what was there is what we plan to do. So with that, if the committee has any questions for myself or Jim Arsenault's here, if there's any specific questions to drainage, that sort of thing, he can answer it. And thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the council? Councilor Hume?
Question for you, Mr. Griffin. So the drainage and irrigation you referenced, is this in addition to what was known last year? And from the recent flooding, is that taking into account?
I think the original plan was that there is, as Melissa mentioned, it's been 40 years since that field was done, and that includes the irrigation. The original thought probably was perhaps the existing irrigation would be sufficient, but as Melissa said, if we're going to do this once in 40-year work to this field, it should be done right. And the last thing we'd want to do is invest a good amount in the field and then have to come in 5-10 years down the road and do some serious irrigation work. So the thought was, the engineers identified improvements that can be made there, as well as some improved drainage. I mean, Deloria has always been the best field to drain there anyway. You think of DeRosa Field, which holds water a good amount once you get out towards the Babe Ruth Field. Deloitte Field is always the first one to come back online after a significant rain event, but with these improvements, it will come back online even quicker.
So has the engineering department or anybody made comment on that there to ensure these upgrades can handle the flooding? I mean, we've seen some pretty severe, probably the worst flooding we've seen down there in the last year.
Yeah, no, I understand, and that's John Thompson and his crew have spent, hence why, there was a lot of, discussion and revamping of plans over the spring and into the summer last year in the meetings with the Conservation Commission. John and his team, they're pretty confident they have addressed and improved what is, as you said, a difficult situation down there. And as with any field, I know several councilors have been youth sports directors in the past. I was director of Braintree Babe Ruth for 8 years. A significant rain event can set you back schedule-wise.
I was a director down there as well.
What's that?
I said I was a
That's
director
that's right.
down
You
there
were
as well.
counselor. You were a counselor, and during the baseball season, rain is our biggest enemy.
Yep.
And obviously, we know we need rain to make the grass green, but only so much of it. But anything we can do to bring these fields back online quicker, get the kids back instead of having to reschedule a game down the road that only 60% of the team can make it to, back in June. We want to get them back on the field in May.
And then one other question, the bidder Fleming, is that the same Fleming that did the high school turf fields?
They are. They've done some significant work in other towns, in other cities. I know if you head in towards, if If you head into Boston, on your left on the way in, right near the Neponset River, there's a lot of, they redid all those fields there. And then as you come up to the Savin Hill Little League, which I think as we've all gone in the Southeast Expressway, we've seen the dramatic improvements over the last couple of years there. That was also their project. So they are a firm that has significant experience with that, and a firm that we trust, even though it was the lowest bid, that it was the most that it was a responsible bid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Mr. Griffin.
Good evening, Councilor.
Just a few questions. First of all, I'm in support of this upgrade, long overdue upgrade for the Watson Park fields, long overdue. There are a lot of environmental challenges down there, and more so over the last 40 years, that the impact of those environmental challenges has put us in a situation where we now need to mitigate those impacts of flooding and et cetera. And I also want to use the opportunity, before I ask specific questions, just to emphasize to the folks listening in and everybody here in the audience that this money that we're speaking about allocating this evening, CPA money, Community Preservation Act money, does not come from our general fund. This money is specifically earmarked as a state law towards the categories of historical preservation, green space, recreation, and I think I'm missing one. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I felt that was important to clarify in this conversation due to the fact that we are facing some financial challenges in our community. So specifically then, what would you see as the top contributing factors that this undertaking was not kicked off last year as originally scheduled?
Obviously, there was some, at that point we were, and I can acknowledge perhaps we were a little ahead of ourselves coming for the initial funding. We were still at about 75% design and when we sought the initial funding. And as I said, once our engineers, John Thompson and Ryan Matheson, who do a terrific job for us, they were able to identify some additional improvements. They're also the Conservation Commission, which we were very grateful for their, support of the project. But Conservation Mission, the application process for conservation, once a plan is final, is in depth. It often takes several meetings. I believe, Jim, you can correct me on this, but I think it was 1 or 2 meetings that needed, and then obviously it went out to bid. And then I would say construction costs caught us a little bit off guard compared to what the original estimate was.
If I may, just for a point
Sure.
of clarification, were those construction costs, the bid went out when?
Bid went out, I believe, in late August.
In late August?
Yeah.
And at that time, the engineering was only 75%?
No. When the bid went out, it had gotten approval from Conservation, and the plans were complete. And the bids did come in, significantly higher than the original estimate, which did not include some of, as I spoke of, some of the irrigation and additional drainage work that our engineers identified.
Okay.
And that's something, unfortunately, we're seeing across the board as far as yes, with even for, as you said, Mr. President, it is common now. I mean, if we had, I suspect that if we had put it out to bid in April or May, we probably would have been before you again for additional. I don't know how much. May of last year.
Right.
If we had come, if it had been out to bid, but as I said, maybe we did get a little bit ahead of ourselves as far as we were only at a certain point in design, but we wanted to get the funding so we could so that we weren't wasting the Conservation Commission's time and wasting the engineers' time for a project that didn't have a good portion of its funding in place.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that,
Thank you.
that answer. Again, you know, I want you to know that I do support this. The reasons are right in terms of why we want to do this. You know, East Braintree deserves this. And certainly understanding that to the President's point about in this day and age, post-COVID, we're still feeling the effects of supply chains. There's still a very volatile cost to supplies themselves, particularly. So do you feel confident at this particular point in time that this is an adequate amount for you to be able to put this in the way
I
that
do,
you
and
intended to?
you know, Director Jim Arsenault is here. I obviously want to thank him for his support throughout this project, and Mayor Joyce and her administration. We do feel extremely confident. Obviously, because we have a bid in hand. We memorandums of understanding everything. The contractor, we've met with them and they understand the schedule. They actually recommended that the best time to do this kind of construction is in their experience is late summer. That way the sod is in a
growing
season, and then is ready to hopefully be ready for opening day 2025.
Great.
And we obviously, it would have been possible to do work this we'd had discussions with the Little League, but it would have been very difficult for them to lose that field for
Understood.
the entire season.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood. So you've answered my question. I appreciate
Thank you.
that, Mr.
Yeah.
Griffin, and thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments from the council? I support this project. I'm glad to hear that our engineering staff looked at, the specifications and the plans for this project and made sure that they were properly put together, and especially to address drainage issues down at the park. As you said, it's a big issue to make sure the field's properly drained. And Watson Park it's long overdue, this improvement to Watson Park. There's many, many, many families and children in the town of Braintree that benefit playing ball down at Watson Park. You go down there for an opening day and see everybody coming out, and it's wonderful. It's one of the best things about the town of Braintree, our recreational programs and our fields and parks and playgrounds, and to use community preservation funds to fix these parks up is wonderful. And to make sure that they're draining properly is very appropriate. It's kind of the out of sight, out of mind things that you need to make sure are included. You talk about dugouts and scoreboards and in the field. You need to make sure there's proper drainage in there. And also, I'm very glad to hear that. Watson Park does need to be hardened and for flood protection as well. When we have any issues down, it is part of the waterfront in Braintree. So I'm sure, hopefully, we're going to be talking about that someday. But we have been experiencing very high rains, and we are going to have some more rain tomorrow night and Thursday. I'm probably going to be in work all night because I have to go to work when it's raining out, and because I'm in the wastewater business. But Chris, you keep putting your finger up like you want to interrupt me. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I do apologize, Mr. President. I'm sorry. To your point about the amount of families that utilize Watson Park, I just wanted to state for the record that East Braintree Little League has been the absolutely best partner possible, not just for this project, but for anything that really goes on at Watson Park, whether it be, their Machado tournament, the things that go on year-round down at Watson Park, and they are an extremely dedicated group of directors and coaches and players. You have many players down there who, once they age out, they volunteer until they go off to college down there. Last year when we were before you for the initial funding, as you know, we had a huge crowd here from East Braintree Little League, and my father was watching at home on BCAM's YouTube channel, and he texted me with, of course, a dad joke, that famous James Earl Jones quote from Field of Dreams, "If you build it, they will come." And I texted him back, I said, no, they're already here, now we have to build it. Because that's the truth. The East Braintree Little League has made a significant commitment. This is a field that, once this portion of the work is done and we hand the field back to them, it's a field that they're going to cherish and take care of with great pride, and we'll be there along the way to help them in any way we can.
Thank you. So, as I was saying, I fully support this. I think it's just the community preservation funds were so fortunate, I think, sitting on this council, and to see the way, as Council Reynolds said, it's not coming out of the general fund, it's coming out of the community preservation funds. And I see the way we utilize these funds in the town of Braintree for affordable housing, for historic preservation, for parks and recreation, and it's really wonderful that we have the opportunity to spend these funds this way. So I'm going to fully support this. And is there any other comments or questions from the council? Council Maglio?
You. I would like to repeat and amplify exactly what you just said, Councilor Ryan. I did have a couple of questions that actually I might as well ask now. One thing that we talked about, Mr. Griffin, is the tree plantings. Actually, I don't know if you were at the Ways and Means Committee meeting when we talked about
Unfortunately,
that.
I was out of town. I know John was there to
That's
represent
okay.
the DPW, and he and I obviously have spoken many times about this.
So
yeah.
just some things to keep in mind about it are the tree plantings that are going along the edge, along the sidewalk. We see what's happening with the roots on Hawthorne Ave, and I know that's 100 years down the road that the roots would get that big, that large, but to just make sure that we're taking care for those beautiful new sidewalks that we just got. And also that it doesn't, and we do have an abutter that's right across the street here tonight to maybe open up a conversation about are those to be a buffer, or those for beautification? It would just be good to know that. The maintenance during non-season is something else that came up at the Ways and Means Committee meeting. The poop scoop machine is something that is owned by the Little League, but then for the rest of the season, all of those remains are there. And then the holes, and I know that's not part of this, but just to keep in mind, the storm wall is so, it's deteriorating in different parts, and that's where a lot of the flooding is coming in.
Councilor, to your point, and one of the terrific, I don't want to use the phrase side effects, but one of the terrific benefits of this program is some long-needed ADA improvements in the area surrounding the field. Pavement, in an area of pavement that has certainly seen better days, better accessible bleachers, that sort of thing. So when it comes to tree planting, as you mentioned, obviously roots coming up, that's something that we're definitely going to incorporate to make sure that, we have the right balance of trees, which we love trees. Although sometimes as a baseball coach, they come into a ground rule. If it hits the tree, it's a double. And to the point, when you mentioned the abutters, I know I've become the ambassador between the league and the neighbors as far as getting those signs down at the end of the year. And the good news is they're going to come down right at the end of this year because we're taking the fence down too. So as part of the project. So I know that has been an area of contention with the neighbor, and that one I want to, with the neighborhood, and one I want to stress tonight that we're going to do better on in the years ahead of making sure that once that last pitch is thrown, those signs come down, which I knew was, I wouldn't call it an agreement, but it was an understanding with the neighborhood probably 12, 13 years ago, which, when you have a rollover of people involved in with a youth sports league, sometimes the message doesn't quite get down the line, but we're taking steps to address that. But yes, no, we want to do what we can with trees. We're happy to work with the neighborhood on tree plantings, and but also with keeping in mind, as you said, roots. We don't want to damage any new infrastructure we put in, particularly as it relates to ADA.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the council? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to open it up to the general public. Is there anyone that would wish to speak on Order 24013? Could you please come to the podium and state your name for the record?
Hi, my name's Judy Gogg, and I live on Gordon Road. My main concern is Delory is the field that floods the least. The flooding occurs in DeRosa and the field next to that, and it's like an ocean. And the seawall needs to be repaired, so I don't understand why we're so concerned about upgrading Delory when all it needs is a facelift. It doesn't need all this work. So that's my main concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if anyone has seen
You have to speak into the microphone if you want to speak.
I don't know if any of you people have seen the flooding down there. Has anyone? Are you aware of what goes on? So I just don't understand why, like I just said, we're spending all this money on a field for a special interest group. And the pathway that was done a couple of years ago, it's all washed away. That needs to be repaired. So that's a lot of money to repair the seawall and the pathway. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to address those comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to inform the public and the members here this evening that the engineering department, Kelly Phelan in my office, the conservation planner, they're all very aware of the situation with the seawall, and it's something that's being looked at. And as far as the washout and different things like that, community preservation funds can't be used for maintenance. So this field is being completely rehabilitated, and everything will be brand new, brought up to code, the ADA code, the drainage stuff, the additional plantings and things like that. So as far as what the plan is going to be for the seawall, I can't speak to that this evening, but it is something that my department is very well aware of, and so is the town engineer. I know there's been site visits out there, and they're looking at sort of ways to short-term fixes, long-term fixes, and things like that, and sort of weighing the options.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much. Is there anyone else from the general public that would like to speak on Order 24013? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Do we have a motion for Order 24013?
Mr. President, I move that in accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 44B and with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee that the amount of $250,000 to be expended from the Open Space and Recreation Fund and $135,000 to be expended from the undesignated fund for the Watson Park to Laurie Field rehabilitation additional funds, Assessors Map 3001, Block 0, Lot 1B. Said funding to be supervised and expended under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee, Director of Planning and Community Development.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is 24014, Mayor appointment of Christopher Ships as Human Resources Director or take up any action related thereto. I'm going to refer to Council Moran, Vice Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, for a recommendation on Order 24014.
Mr. President, the Committee on Ways and Means met last week, and the committee voted unanimously for a favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 24014.
Thank you. Is there anyone here from the mayor's office? The mayor herself would like to speak on this? Thank you. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening. Thank you, President Ryan. I'm very pleased tonight to be here yet again on an appointment to a department head position that has been open for a little while. We're certainly happy to bring Christopher Ships on board. Mr. Ships comes to us with a over 20 years of experience in the human resources field, a good variety of both public and private work. He is coming directly from a neighboring city, and I think brings a really great perspective on some of bigger city services that are offered. I think he's going to offer a lot of insight on how we can up our game in the HR department, and I'm really looking forward to bringing him on board. We're very happy to have him, and he has been participating in a transitional way, helping us kick off a benefits fair, which needed to be organized and brought online before he was technically starting, and helped to set some rates for our health insurance in this upcoming year. So just a great team player already. His official start date in an interim position before your hopeful appointment was on Monday. So we're happy to have him, and I'm going to invite him up to answer any questions directly from the council tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ships, come on up. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Council President, councilors. Thank you for having me here. I'm honored for this privilege to be considered for the position of Human Resources Director for the town of Braintree. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a human resources professional, as the mayor said, with over 20 years of human resources experience, progressively responsible. I have a master's degree in public administration. I have worked in the public sector, the private sector, as well as quasi-public sectors in both union and non-union environments. I'm somebody who can help an organization or department plan strategically, long-term, as well as somebody who can roll up his sleeves and manage successfully the day-to-day operations of a full-service human resources department. So that is it in a nutshell, I would say.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the council? Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. And welcome, Mr. Ships.
Thank you, Councilor.
We've had an opportunity, I've had an opportunity to review your resume, and it's very extensive and very impressive. You do have quite a wide breadth of experiences, as you pointed out, across the public sector, as well as some private sector, and then even your own business ownership.
Yes.
So just on that, you had a yoga and fitness. I think that's great. I know that that's something that, as a past employee here in the town for a short while, that the wellness program is something that's really important in helping us keep our costs down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting, and wondering if you'll be leading some yoga classes perhaps here during lunch. But some of the things I wanted to ask you about, though, in your resume, you talked about a few different jobs that you've held. One of them is more of a question for you. And as the Assistant HR Director in the City of Brockton, you referenced that you oversaw benefits for the school department. Is that, am I correct in assuming that the school department, all the employees of the City of Brockton fell underneath the executive HR department?
That's correct. Yes, that is correct. The city employees receive their benefits, health insurance, dental, life insurance through the City Human Resources Office, as well as teachers and school department personnel.
Did you find that as a challenge in terms of the different types of organizations within the city, particularly to the schools, and what kind of challenges did you face in providing in the oversight of benefits to the schools as well as all the other employees in town?
Sure. The challenge is just the sheer volume. 3,200 school personnel, 850 city employees, and we also handled 5,000 retirees. So the sheer volume of benefits that were managed in our office with a very small staff, I would say, was the biggest challenge. But we were trained, we worked well, we cross-trained, and again, it really came down to working well together and understanding what the roles were of each person and being able to step in when we can or could to help pick up and support each other during this time. So those were some of the challenges.
Okay, so it's giving me thoughts and ideas about here in Braintree, and some, again, I made reference in a previous motion, a vote, about some of the challenges that we face as a community in terms of costs and revenues et cetera. So I wanted to get your take on that, particularly where we do have a different set of those types of officers that perform those similar duties in our school system, separate from our executive branch.
I see.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you also, these are 2 points that have always been very important to me as a manager and a leader. Performance management policies and onboarding.
Yes.
Particularly, I'd like you to start with your onboarding. You made mention of these as something of a skill or something you were proud of accomplishing. Can you give me a little bit on your thoughts on the onboarding, the effectiveness of onboarding, and what kind of a high-level benefit you see that would bring here?
Sure. Onboarding in every community organization or agency has its own nuances. However, the importance is being able to reach out to find qualified, capable applicants. Then in the process of making sure you're interviewing a diverse population of qualified individuals.
If I could,
course.
I know there may be some other questions. It's the actual onboarding once they've been hired. Okay, I'd like you to walk through that a little bit, because I see in my own point of view, there is quite a bit of dividend that pays operationally, relationships, management capabilities. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. As far as onboarding, we're making sure that folks are receiving benefit information from the town, what they are eligible for. And please feel free to redirect me as well if I'm sort of off track here. But making sure that we reach out to the candidate, that they have the information that they need for onboarding, policies, benefits, really make sure that...
And do you put an emphasis, if I may, just to take you up on your offer?
Yes.
Do you put an emphasis on the first-line supervisor and manager's role in that? Or is that entirely, from your experience, something the HR would take on?
Well, it depends. Ordinarily, HR will take it on. However, it's really important to get the first-line manager to be a part of that process so that when the employee does arrive here, they know where to go. They know that where their desk is. They know that their computers are set up, phone systems are taken care of, that they have even an information packet when they arrive so they know, contact information. Give them a tour of City Hall or even the town. Introduce them to the folks, particularly the folks that they'll be working with more closely to be effective in their job, and to really bring them up to speed on what the important aspects of that department are, so they're well informed, and to just want to be available to them, and to set up regular meetings with them, especially during the first 3 months, 6 months.
That sounds great. I mean, there is definitely a dividend that gets paid an engaged employee, an engaged management team, and the performance that you will get, which segues to my next question. What kind of a performance program, just at a very high level, you don't have to get into much detail, but in terms of schedule, initial kickoff of a performance evaluation, you got it.
Sure. Depending on the structure of the performance schedule, we would have I would set up a schedule in advance that we would have, managers meeting with their supervisees on a regular basis, just so that there's always feedback throughout the year. So it really shouldn't be a one-time evaluation at the end of a year to go over any problems or surprise issues. It should be an ongoing process so that at the end of a year, everybody's fully informed of any challenges or progress. The schedule should be that the HR, if we lead this, would let the departments know that and again, depending on what the tools are, if there are performance evaluations where the employee will provide their own self-evaluation, we want to make sure that the employee has that, provides that to their supervisor. They will then meet with the supervisor to go over any accomplishments, challenges, and that should be scheduled. And then, depending again if it's finance or if it's a union setting, what the next steps are in that process to ensure that there's feedback, that if there are
I think what you've spelt out for me is you've got a good handle on the importance of
Okay,
the
thank you.
performance management. So
Be all over the place.
you've given me the confidence of knowing that the mayor has selected an excellent candidate here to fill in as HR director.
I appreciate
Based on your experiences, this is just something that is important to me, and I see the benefits to an organization when you have that expectation, where you're setting the onboarding tone right from the get-go, where you're holding people accountable from a performance management standpoint. And I know it can be very challenging. There may be some other folks here asking you the question, particularly in a union setting. So thank you. I appreciate your willingness to bear with me on this, and the answers, I was fully satisfied. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Welcome, Mr. Ships. Chris, do you live near Braintree?
I live in Brockton currently.
You live where?
In Brockton.
In Brockton.
Sure.
That's a hop,
However.
skip, and a jump right down the road.
Yes.
Okay. Are you from Brockton?
No, I actually grew up in the town of Hull and have lived in Weymouth, and one of the requirements, which is to live in the city of Brockton, and I was happy to do that, and I certainly love to live in the town of Braintree.
Excellent. So I was looking at your resume, and you have a lot of diverse experience, a lot of HR experience. I'm a person, if you looked at my resume, I've worked at the same place for 37 years, which I don't know if that's good or bad. But I see that you've worked in a couple different places, so just wondering what's kind of your game plan for this job, and what do you envision your future in this job?
Sure. One is to jump in and to really become familiar with the department heads, to work with department heads. I know that the town is facing a number of different challenges on a number of different fronts. But to be able to certainly work closely with the mayor, finance, and department heads to find out, what the employee challenges might be, what the direction of the town is, where we can support and build and grow. And I do believe strongly in creating, really strong interpersonal relations with departments. And I think once you create those relationships, you'll understand what the foundation is, where the challenges are, and where the strengths are. And then being able to work with departments as well as employees, the union, whether it's developing policies in negotiations, even in disciplinary actions. You can find because you've created those relations, you'll have a trust and an integrity in there that the decisions are being made in the best interest of the town, of the town, and for the employee as well as City Hall. So really is developing relationships and bringing a level of competence and responsiveness to the Human Resources Department. Not that it doesn't exist now, but to make sure that that is certainly there. And certainly the professionalism as well. Again, I know it's there, but to help continue that, to grow that level of human resources professionalism so that we're available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And part of the question is, how long would you envision maybe being like in this job? Do you feel like this is something, this job, yes. As I mentioned, you went a couple different places, you worked a few different places. Do you envision being in this job for a long time?
I would like to be in this job if I could be here for another 10 years, and I mean that sincerely. I'm at a point where I'd like to find a home and stay, and to help if I can be a contributor to the town, to human resources, to the city, to the town, sorry, I keep saying to departments, that would be, my goal, is to find that home and to find that place. And I believe that Braintree feels like a very good fit for me, and I hope that the town, you all find that to be true too.
Thank you. So I just want to say again, welcome, and I wish you the best of luck in your new position.
Thank you very much.
Braintree. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Is there any further comments or questions from the council? All right, do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I would move upon the request of our honor Mayor Joyce, the town of Braintree, through the Braintree Town Council in accordance with section 3-3 and 2-10 of the town charter, approve the appointment of Christopher Ships as Human Resource Director.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
So the next item is 24015, Mayor appointment of Christina O'Connell as Treasurer Collector. I'll take up any action related thereto. I'm going to refer it to Council Moran, Vice Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, for a recommendation regarding this order 24015. Council Moran.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Ways and Means met last week, and the committee voted 3 in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 absent for a favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 24015.
Thank you, Council Moran. Madam Mayor.
Good
hello
evening,
again.
thank you. Again, I'm very pleased to be here tonight to recommend for appointment Ms. Christina O'Connell to our Treasurer Collector position. Ms. O'Connell is actually a Braintree resident, so we're very excited to have another Braintree resident join us at Town Hall. She's also a veteran of the Army and has a very accomplished career in accounting and is truly a public servant at heart. And I think that will shine clear when she's up here speaking on behalf of herself. Ms. O'Connell brings a very strong management and leadership skill set to a department that I think has a very public-facing piece. So we're really looking forward to what she is going to, I know, bring to that department and to the collector's office. We're certainly lucky to have her, and I'm very pleased tonight to have her be able to, have you all to be able to meet her. Similarly to Mr. Shipp's, her first day was Monday. She is serving in an interim position until hopefully your appointment this evening. So thank you very much. And with that, I will invite Ms. O'Connell up to introduce herself. Thank you.
Hello. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate the welcome. Thank you, President and council members. I am super excited to be here. My name is Christina O'Connell, and I'm a resident of Braintree, and with your appointment tonight, hopefully your next town treasurer. So what can I answer for you?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am as I said, a Braintree resident, been here about 19 years, not a native, but a resident, long-term, and I have an accounting degree, bachelor's degree, and a master's degree in administration from Central Michigan. Go Chippewas. I am an Army veteran, over 5 years active duty in the Finance Corps, and honorably discharged from that. After that, I moved to the private sector, but quickly found that I didn't have fulfillment in that position, simply because though I loved external auditing, internal auditing, it wasn't my jam. You know, I really wanted to serve the public. My time in the military showed me that there is no better, more fulfilling feeling than helping the public and doing public service. So I joined the FBI and then transferred over to the Internal Revenue Service when I realized that, I have an accounting degree and an accounting background. So I spent over 20 years at the Internal Revenue Service, and I retired. I held multiple positions of leadership. I have over 12 years of leadership experience in the government system. I served as a special agent in charge of the New England Field Division for the Internal Revenue Service, supervising 13 offices, over 100 people, responsible for the tax collections across all of New England. Pardon me, I should say tax collections from Criminal Investigation Division across all of New England. From there, I went to Washington, D.C., and served as a deputy director over the finance and human resources and physical assets, physical capital assets offices. 3,000 people, budget of $658 million annually. I executed those with a staff of probably about 60 to 75 people in very tumultuous times during COVID. I know everybody is aware of the challenges that were brought to bear during that time. So I have over 27 years of government experience in the public financial sector. I am incredibly excited. As I was telling the mayor in my interview, this is the job that I always wanted. I left the IRS when I retired, and I went to a very nice, very comfortable private sector accounting firm job. But upon my retirement from the IRS, I did set an alert. I went specifically to the Town of Braintree website, and I set an alert for the one job that I would take, and that was the treasurer tax collector job. Actually, it actually said parking clerk too. But at any rate, I set that alarm, went to work in the private sector, and 18 months later, my phone dinged one Friday afternoon. And I looked at my phone, and I was like, what in the world is this? And it was the town treasurer position. And I surely had to have been the first applicant. I mean, I don't know, but I put my resume in, and I am so happy that you guys are considering me today.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councilor Hume?
Best story.
That's great, right?
But thank you for your service, and I'm all in favor for this, so welcome.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Councilor Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. President, and welcome. A very impressive story, I would say. Agree with Councilor, the previous speaker. Thank you for your service to our country's military, at the federal government level, and now at the municipal level. This is where it happens, and being a fellow veteran, this is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Hoorah, I tell you what.
Hoorah, I love it.
When I was in there today answering phones, I couldn't have been any happier, because at the IRS, we don't always answer our phones, you know what I'm saying? So picking up phones and helping residents today, it was just, there's no better feeling.
That is awesome. And I just wanted to ask a couple of things about you. So I'm very happy to hear about your audit background. Having that kind of a background in the position that you have and that you'll be undertaking those responsibilities, I think that is a tremendous perspective for you to be able to bring efficiencies on a day-to-day basis and as you look out how you want to operate. And I think the mayor, again, has made an excellent choice here for filling this vacant position. I'm interested a little bit in your leadership acumen. You have quite a bit. And I would say from my own experiences, past experiences, and current observations that the Treasurer's Office has some leadership opportunities. And one of those opportunities is the finance system that we use. Are you familiar with Munis?
I have 2 days of experience with Munis.
Okay. Munis has got some great features. Some really great features to it. However, it's how it's managed. It's how that the tool is used. And this is where I think somebody like yourself, working along with your other boss, the finance director, I think this is an area of opportunity for this town to really bring a lot of efficiencies using that tool in the way it was meant when it was originally rolled out. There were some issues because of COVID and training, et cetera, that really set it back, and the opportunity for it to be a great tool for the town of Braintree and its finance system from an end-to-end perspective. It actually comes into the 21st century, where before it wasn't in the 21st century as far as 7, 8 years ago. Okay, so I'm really psyched to see the fact that we've got someone of your caliber here, and I would really look forward to hearing some of the progress that you make in these areas, because I think there's a lot of promise here, and I'm really happy to have you on board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the confidence.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Any other comments, Councilor Moran?
Again, I would echo my thanks that the councilors have for your service, both as in the military, where my father learned accounting as well. He was an Air Force accountant. He always said that was the intelligent branch of the armed services.
Why walk when you can fly, right?
Exactly. And secondly, more and often overlooked, your work in the IRS. It's often viewed as thankless and a target, and if people didn't do that, the entire government wouldn't run. So thank you for your service on that in the IRS as well.
Thank you.
Your background as far as auditing is impressive. Again, I just want to reiterate, I have concerns. I had concerns regarding your lack of experience in a municipality in the role of treasurer-collector. I would have preferred to have seen someone with that experience. Nonetheless, I think you're a worthy candidate, and what tipped my vote in your favor is my experience with a former Internal Revenue Service employee who was elected treasurer or tax collector back in '91, Vinnie Joyce, who was a retired IRS employee and did a fantastic job in the office. So I think that I have every confidence that you'll transition over time into your role very well. I hope the enthusiasm that you're exuding regarding answering phone calls and dealing with customers lasts through the season when you have to do trash permits. I think that may test your enthusiasm somewhat
Bring it
when you
on,
get
sir.
through that.
Bring it on.
Okay, okay. You all heard that out there. But I look forward to working with you, and I thank you for your willingness to come and work for the town of Braintree.
No, I am very excited. And to be fair, there's a tremendous staff in there of seven treasurer collector employees that I'm quite sure already I can't do it without them. And so they're all there to bring the weight of the office and all of our credentials to bear. So we're going to be good. We're going to be better than good.
Better.
Hoorah.
Thank you. Any other councils have any questions or comments? Well, you do have an impressive background, Ms. O'Connell, and you know, as Council Moran said, I hope you can really make the transition to have never been a tax collector or a treasurer, that you can make that adjustment and succeed in that position. So I wish you the best. You seem like you're very well qualified. You seem like you have a very good way about you. You seem like you'd be a pleasant person to work with. And you know, we have our challenges in this upcoming fiscal year, and I wish you the best. And I'd like to echo what another council said. It seems like the mayor has made some very good selections to fill these positions. So good luck.
Thank you for your time and your support. Appreciate it.
Would anyone else like to have any questions or comments? Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I would move upon the request of Her Honor Mayor Joyce, the town of Braintree, through the Braintree Town Council in accordance with Section 3-3 and 2-10 of the town charter, approve the appointment of Christina O'Connell as treasurer-collector.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Good luck.
Congratulations.
Okay. So do we have a motion to move all measures under new business to the respective committees?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. So that is it for our business tonight. Our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, April 30th, so the last Tuesday of the month. I'd like to thank B-Camp for televising tonight's meeting, Bill Needham and Jerry Comic, and I would like to ask, is there a motion to adjourn tonight?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.